Welcome to Okayama in the iRacing Skip Barber on pole position with 6/10 lead. 1600 strength of field, so it's a pretty reasonable field. I'm just trying to shift over to the right here to block up that inside. And down a second, just getting it nice and keeping nice and tight, not running wide. Trying to get on the gas. That's a decent first couple of corners. See, brake hard. Let's just make sure we get it rotated tight on this corner. So it was a little bit tense the first, in particular the first couple of laps, first few laps when you're leading. Down this long back straight. Just looking down the right hand side because this is a pretty standard place to pass. Down to first gear. Take quite a wide entrance here. I'm trying to keep it tight on the right rather than drifting too far left. Harden the gas there. Let's get it rotated around this corner. Field's pretty bunched up. Down to first gear. A little bit of rotation before we actually begin the turning. Just a bit of track on it, exit there. And I feel he's starting to spread out a little bit. So we survived lap 1 in P1. I need another couple of really good laps if I can. Back on the gas. Be careful not to get into the sand or the gravel there. Rotate it. And back on the gas. Again, we'll clear down the right hand side. Take it all the way down to first. Not tight enough on the inside there, but just about got away with it. Put it tight on this curb. Really great track to use those curbs. At the first, late apex here. Trying to get onto the gas just as that curbing starts to end, then using that curb on exit. It's a tricky corner here. Have to lift there, but you've got to be careful you don't lift too much. Now I'm running wide on exit into the gravel. Doesn't look as though it's going to be a critical failing, just a 1x. A lot of patience here getting up on this curb, back on the gas. Again, brake. Down a second. Okay, looks like the two of us have broken away a little bit from the rest of the field. Of the rest of the drivers, there's only one name that I really recognise. One or two I'm familiar with, but one I recognise. Can't recall being against the drivers currently in second. driving a little bit under my qualifying time here. Instead of doing the 46.7 I did in qualifying, doing 40 around mid 47s, mid to late 47s. But it's harder to put those times in when you have somebody right behind you and you know that if you make a mistake, you're going to lose the lead. And quite a gap growing now. Running a little bit wide there, having to be late on back on the gas. The car was just sliding a little bit. Just got to let it settle back down when it's doing that. He's having a look down the inside there. Sliding again. So you're going to have to look down the inside. Always got to be aware of how close they are coming down here. If they're like 3/10 behind, then you've got to start thinking about being defensive. Taking it down a first again, he's rotating, he's right behind me. There's a poor corner. Turned in a little bit too early there. That's good. That second of those two left-handers kind of made up for the first. Be careful there. Yeah, you can probably make some good use of the curbing mid-corner, well, on corner exit I suppose, on that second to last corner, but it's very easy to lose it on that. Still in my mirrors. Getting it onto that curbing. See, a lot of the times it's about being patient with your throttle application, just waiting for it to be the right moment. Trying to keep your speed up a little bit, just a little gentle throttle application, but running very wide there. But yeah, you got to be. Sometimes you just got to be patient with it. Again, if you try to do too much too early around here, you will spin. But that's not so much a failure of the track as a failure of your technique. You know, you can blame the track as being slippery, and that's fine, but it's not going to change. It's not going to gain a lot of grip next season or the season after. It's still going to be as it is, so you have to learn what it will accept and what it won't. He's still right behind me. Now it's real. I mean, at this point, it's really all about which one of us is going to make a mistake first. We've always got to remember when you're in a situation where you have such a big difference in qualifying time. I know I've got more pace than he has. So he's got to be working really hard to keep up with me. He does have the benefit of the toe, but he's still got to drive it. And he's still got to keep it on that sort of pace. The important thing from my perspective is just keep him out of that, keep him above half a second behind me at least. If I can do that, then it should all be good. I can either go defensive in the corners, or, well, I suppose just hope he doesn't do anything stupid. Mr. Gear change there. Sometimes people late in a race in particular, if they've been behind you a long time, haven't been able to get past you, they will make really rash attempts. They'll really just dive down your inside from so far back. So you've always got to have that in mind. And he's still right behind me here. Just using that curb on exit. That's a pretty good corner there. Kept it nice and tight on the apex. Again, we've got a good gap here. It's a tricky corner to get right there. You've got to be nice and patient. You've got to get it slowed down properly. If you're having problems with it being slippery, a lot of that will just be down to trying to take too much speed into corners. You're working hard to keep it tight on the inside. It's going to be a little bit tight, just about kept that within whatever the track limits are. Starting to come up to halfway, half distance in the race. He's still right there behind me. Running a little bit wide here. I'm having to be patient there again. That's not a good corner. Just trying to keep it as neat and tidy as I can, and just staying within a good lap time range. And again, is just too far back to have a go into the hairpin. He's pulling down onto the right hand side there. Don't know whether that's just to try to make me think he's gonna try it, but I'm just with this level of strength of field and with his rating, you hope that he knows not to do something like that. If he had a lower core number, then you'd maybe have something to worry about. It's kind of a two-way thing, that has a plus and a minus, you know, because as the number 2 rated driver, he's got a lot of experience and he's been pretty successful. So he's not going to do anything stupid, or at least he shouldn't do. But at the same time, you know that he should have the experience to stay with this. That he's got the ability to hold it together. If it was a lower rated driver, let's say number 12 car, or you know, anything between, let's say, 12 and 18, then you can't be as sure. There's more of a likelihood they might do something reckless. Just maybe not out of poor driving, just lack of experience. But with that rating, he should know what he's doing. And so far he has. So far he's stuck with it. He's been pretty consistent. Getting too far back to try anything. Braking hard down to first. See how close he is there. Let's get it tight in the apex. When you're making that first left-hander, you're just really on the edge of spinning it. You know if you try to turn in a little bit more, you're going to lose it. That all comes with experience. You drive the car long enough, you will figure that out. You will get a feel for that. Going a bit wide there. I got the feeling in this race that he's not as quick as me through that section. Again, that's I suppose the second most important corner on the track, because it exits onto a straight. Little bit of a better gap there. That's a good corner. Again, just trying to keep it tight on the corner as much as I can. And still have a good gap. In some ways that's the simplest corner, but also the most dangerous, because you really have to have a good marker there, and you have to stick with it. Bit aggressive there. Okay, I've got a bit of a gap now. I need to build on that. At times like this, you just want to put in a couple of really good laps just to try to break his spirit, just to get him to accept that that he's not going to be able to pass you. Again, he's not close enough, so I can just concentrate on getting this corner right. Apart from that first corner at the start, I've not had to be defensive anywhere really. Just driven my own line and my own race. That said, I've been constantly looking in my mirrors. Always trying to be a bit deliberate when I'm dropping down to that last gear, whether it's first or second. It's a temptation to jump in onto your gear changes and do them early and risk blowing your engine. So try to just leave that last gear change a little bit. Obviously you've got to have it done before you get anywhere near the actual turning. You've got to avoid snatching at it and taking it too early. Now coming to the end of the race, not too long to go now. It's the question now of not making any mistakes, because it's a pretty good gap. I'm not in any threat down these straights. Getting hard on the brake down to first gear. Could hear that little bit of a gap between second and first. You don't want to blow the engine or unsettle the car. Also just blipping the engine on downshift, although I don't think that's actually necessary in this, but it's a good habit to get into. I know there'll be some people that don't blip on the skippy and then go to a tin top and blip on that, but I find I need to do it in both, and it's just good practice. That's a pretty good gap now. Always trying to look for a good line through there and making sure that I make good use of that corner exit. It's quite a bit of curb on there that you want to use. But sometimes you find you're going a little bit too wide, or something isn't quite as you'd like it to be, and that's when you just have to kind of make it up as you go along. You got to improvise a little bit at times. Brake, brake, brake. Neat and tidy around there. I'm just trying to get it tightened there just before the end of the apex start to get on the gas, just before the curbing ends. The great thing about this track is that because of its length, it's certainly with a good strength of field race, you can go a whole race without seeing back markers. It's the second race for me here this week, and I've not seen a lap car yet, so that's made it a lot easier. Certainly with a driver that close behind you, don't want to run into lap traffic. That's not too bad. Getting plenty of space behind now. question of not making any mistakes. Decent corner. Just be careful here not to run wide. It's pretty good. Get onto this inside apex and go. And there you have it. There you have race winner Okayama and the Skip Barber. That might have seemed like a fairly straightforward win, but you know, when you have a driver behind you less than 1 second back, that's actually a real challenge. I'm certainly not capable of putting in personal bests in that kind of situation. But just did enough to maintain a healthy gap. Never really gave a huge opportunity to be passed. So got to be pretty happy with that. Any time you win a race, obviously, it's a pretty good result. And it's you know, it's a favourite track of mine. It's one I know well. Can be pretty quick around here. It's always nice to get a win wherever you are. It shows the importance when you're in the lead just to keep it nice and tidy and keep a good pace. Don't get obsessed with the driver behind you, but just make sure you do the things that you need to, and then be thinking, do I need to go defensive on this corner, or can I just drive it the way I want to drive it? So obviously you want to drive it the way you want to drive it, but be prepared to judge whether they're close enough to be able to have a go down the inside. It's just rolling it into the pit lane. Long pit lane. So yeah, good strength of field, 1600 strength of field. Best, I have to say, it's probably my best race result ever. Best championship points ever. And finished the race with my highest rating to date. So that's another race at Okayama. Hope you enjoyed that, and I will see you again next time.